All right, folks, welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I am joined by my awesome client, Larry, today. Larry has been working with me in the program for over a year now, or just a year this month now. And I wanted to get him on to talk about his experience to date. We did a check-in a few months ago, but unfortunately, my internet didn't allow us to, to publish that. So, Larry, maybe just tell people a bit about who you are, what you do day to day, how old you are, and then we'll go through your experience in the program to date, okay?
Sure. So I am 56, will be 57 a little bit later this year. Um, Worked most of my life behind a desk, working on computer stuff, support, doing a little bit of code, and then writing technical documentation. Um, a lot of that led to weight gain and some poor flexibility issues. Um, some of those I was able to resolve by going through some other programs with GMB, and that got me to a certain point, just kind of going through those on my own, and then to get the next little bit and kind of improve on that work was when I joined your program, um, to just try to fix some of the problem areas that had still persisted. Um, Other things I do during my life, I have chickens, I have bees. Those keep me kind of active, but not, like walking a dog active or something like that.
Yeah.
There are excuses to get outside a couple times a day, but not to go for long walks. So that was another thing. I would occasionally go hiking with some friends on the weekend, uh, but that also was very hard, because it was a thing that we just did on the weekends and all of us were out of shape.
Got
So,
it, mate.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it wasn't like you were starting from zero, because like Larry is a GMB trainer as well, has done quite a bit of mobility training before coming into the program. So I guess what motivated you to get a more personalized approach versus following the programs that you were on previously?
Um, I forget who said it, but there was a coach who said that if you're your own coach, you have an idiot for a client. Um, and
Dan
that
John.
is, yeah, and that is true, in my
Yeah.
case at least, because I would program things that uh, I wanted to either I was good at or that I wanted to chase, but then I would chase them too aggressively, um, and not go slow enough to avoid injuring myself or to make actual progress. Um, and so yeah, so that's why I decided to join you with the coaching program.
Yeah, it's such a good quote because I'm the exact same. I was like, oh, I'm not getting injured anymore. And it's like, oh yeah, because I haven't written my own programs for like 8 years. That's why.
Yep.
Um, that's so good, mate. So let's talk about some breakthroughs, like maybe earlier on in the program. What were some things that happened that you were like, oh, okay, this is actually, yeah, this is really starting to click now and make a lot of sense.
I think one of the early things that we did was back way off on pull up and chin up training. Previously, I had been able to do it, one or two after working on it for a while, but then I would have elbow pains and then I would lose it if I didn't, because I would be like, oh, hey, mission achieved. Let's go do something else. Um, so we went way back on that, scaled back to pulling prep and shoulder mobilization. Um, had some breakthroughs on that with just pulling strength in general, being able to hold an active hang for long periods of time, and then make a lot of progress towards pull-ups, then we also address the elbow pain. I forget if it was golfer or tennis elbow was the common term, but
Hmm.
we used Zotman curls, I believe it was. And after a couple of weeks of those, knock on wood, but I haven't had elbow pain since in doing any of the pulling movements. So that was great. That was an amazing fix and progress. I think the other thing that I progressed on early was just some of the habits and habit changes and dietary awareness. I don't want to say, diet, but just being more aware of the things that I was eating, um, what things were high in sugar, what things were high in fat. Also increasing some of my protein intake helped me lose a little bit of weight that I had wanted to get rid of. And then with the habit tracking, that also helped identify things that were leading to poor sleep or poor food decisions because of stress. So I started doing things for sleep, like just cutting out caffeine at noon. I still have a reminder on my phone to, last cup of caffeine is lunchtime. So, um,
Yeah, mate. I love what you've like. It's really good advice, but it's really difficult to take it sometimes. Like in particular, I remember that conversation with you, and like you were just really you just did it so well. Like it's not, and this is from personal experience as well. Like I want to chase something, and I'm really close to getting it, and then you even like when I got the muscle up as an example, I could do it, but I was like, ah, the elbows are kind of really sore every time we do it. But but I want to get this skill or this movement, and it's like an ego thing. But you
mhm.
were super open. You're like, yeah, cool. Like let's scale it way back, and you were really patient as well. And the cool thing is now, like you're executing them with awesome form, better form than most people half your age. Um, like I would say 90% of people you see in the gym are just nowhere near have the strength and the ability that you're doing your pull-ups at now. Um, and just like owning it as well. I think do you want to touch on that maybe just owning a movement versus being able to do a movement, in a compromised way?
Yeah, it's kind of a subtle thing. Um, I think the first time I hit it was way back with some of the early GMB training I was doing. And for me, people talk about having muscle amnesia, where you don't have that mind muscle connection. And there was a day when I finished my exercise and I was walking and I just realized that I could feel and was aware of the muscles involved with walking. And it's a cool feeling. It's just like, oh, I can control this. I can stop it, and I can pause in this movement, and I'm not really struggling at that point. I can feel what's going on. I can make these micro adjustments. Um, and for me, that's what it is I'll hit a point with an exercise where I'm like, oh, yes, I'd have no problem, pulling my shoulder blades down and keeping my shoulders from shrugging up, which was another problem I'd faced in the past. But it's just a level of control that you get where you're more consciously feeling the muscles that are involved in the movement. Um, yeah, and it's a lot more. I talk about it with walking or with pulling shoulders down, but there's a lot more that goes into it than that. Uh, like the form with my pull-ups, I think a lot of that has to go back to also work with hollow body hold, because a lot of that is just maintaining that core strength. Um, which that's another hard won ability is hollow body hold. Man, I hated that thing for so long.
Yeah.
Still not my favorite exercise, but I have made my peace with it, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of just, yeah, just that awareness. A lot of the times you can do a movement and you get it, but like as Larry was saying, in particular with scapula, like the shoulder blade area,
Mm.
we're very disconnected from that part of our body, and rarely are you gonna train it or even understand what's going on there or be able to move it independently of we'll say the elbows. Generally everything we do with the upper body, our elbows are bending as well. So trying to, do a strength exercise with your elbows locked out, and you start kind of going into that more scapular strength and mobility realm, which most people don't kind of address that.
Mm.
Um, Also around the food, mate, like I like you use the kind of awareness around food as well. So, what sort of impacts would you say? Like you said, you lost weight as well. So how much weight have you dropped to date in the program?
Um, I think at this point I am down at least 10 pounds.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I think I started at 206, and as of a day or two ago, I was 185. So um, pounds,
Yeah, that's 20 pounds.
20 pounds. Okay, so my math is
Yeah,
off.
that's great. Yeah, 10 kilos. Yeah, that's great, mate. It's also just a really like it's a great skill or strength exercise to work on. Like for people listening, if you want to drop body fat, but you also want to just get stronger and work on your posture and your body awareness, like working on like proper chin ups in conjunction with a weight loss goal is great because as Larry will probably be able to agree, like being 20 pounds lighter also makes chin ups a lot easier to achieve. But the
Yeah.
focus is on that strength skill rather than like just weight loss, as an example. Um, what would you say the impact of these kind of changes have been on, life in general to date?
Um, a lot of it is just, you think of it as minor stuff, but it adds up. Um, like losing weight means that if you've got knee problems, like I've got a creaky knee going downstairs, that doesn't bother you as much if you lose a little bit of weight. With the scapular work and the focus on pull-ups, it's helped me being able to get my arms above my head and even a little bit, behind, and things like that, which has improved some of my other exercises, um, or the form on some of my other movements. And just in general, I think dropping some of the weight helped a lot of things. Like I found that I was able to get into a squat, deep resting squat a little bit better once I lost a little bit around the waist. Um, so just it's minor things when you look at one or the other, but then it just kind of adds up. And then of course
Yeah,
there's body image when you look in the mirror and you're like, oh hey, who are you?
yeah,
So
that's awesome. Yeah, mate. And do you want to actually talk about the squat experiment you found beneficial? I forgot to ask you about that.
oh yeah. And there's a lawnmower outside, so hopefully that's not coming through. Okay, cool.
No.
Uh yeah, so we did the 30-day squat challenge. I think it was December. Um and the goal of it was to try to work up to 10 minutes of time daily in a body weight squat. And not, all at one time, just some time through the day. And I was able to eventually work up to, I think, a little over 5 minutes consistently. Um, but during that, just doing the daily practice for, as much time as I could, up to 10 minutes, it improved my squat depth. I got more comfortable in the squat for sure. Was able to get my feet a little bit wider apart than I had previously. And so I still do squat, body weight squat daily. Like when I'm at work waiting on something to build or some process to complete, I just, get out of the chair and do a squat, or do a squat and alternate with doing some chin-up negatives on a pull-up bar in the office, and just trying to use that downtime waiting on stuff at work to get a little exercise in.
Yeah, man. I think that's such an important message for people, like the OTMs, opportunities to move. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just get good at what you repeat. So as Larry said, he was holding eventually 5 minutes a day, like over the 30 days. And as a result, his squat improved a lot. But yeah, I think it's a lot of times we can think, oh, I'm just not good at that. But it's like you haven't done it in 2 decades, so you shouldn't be good, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, and one other thing, just thinking of quality of life improvements with the pull-up work that had strengthened some of my, back muscles. And that actually helped me get into a more upright position when I get into a squat. So it's definitely helped with the squat. There's a knock-on effect. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And the cool thing about it as well is you're able to get into mechanically better positions. So
mhm.
then your injury risk goes down, your muscular recruitment goes up, and you get better results. Like you get stronger, you get more mobile. So then when for someone who's doing like a quarter squat every time they go to the gym, they're just getting really strong at that quarter range. Whereas for you, Larry, if you're going full depth into your squat and hanging out there, you're building strength in those deeper positions safely. And then you're also doing your full, depth and length with the chin ups. So you're building way more strength there as well, which is awesome. Um, I'd love you to touch on, mate, like you said you're 56, going on 57. A lot of I guess the narrative, you might have heard it yourself as well, is like, well, you're over 50 now. So it's kind of, it's time to give up. Like,
Yeah.
what I'd advise, like, because this is for someone listening that maybe, let's just say they're 56, but they feel that their body's really starting to fail them. And it's kind of like, Jesus, like if this is the way I am now at 55, 56, where is it going over the next 10, 15 years? So yeah, I'd like you to just maybe give that person some advice on their situation, because you're still, very busy with work. You're in a demanding corporate job, I'll say. So yeah, would love to hear your input there.
Sure. I would say it's not too late to recover. Uh, I've also seen people online saying that, if you're 30, that you're falling to pieces. And I just laugh at that. At 56, I'm in better health than I was at 30 for sure.
Oh,
I started I started doing GMB work. I think it was 49 was my age at that point, and it has been consistently getting better and better since, because you build the base when you first start out, the base movements, the base capabilities, and you just keep improving on them. It's not that you move on to better stuff, which you do unlock other things you can do, but you also unlock the abilities to keep improving on that base. The basic movements like push-ups and pull-ups. There are so many variations of those, and if it gets to where you can do like 100 pull-ups, or excuse me, 100 push-ups, well, try slowing them down. You know,
yeah.
10 seconds down, 10 seconds up. It's going to be harder. There's always
Yeah.
room to improve. But it all just take your time, don't rush at it. And you can, recover your abilities and have better health.
That's huge, man. It's so important to just, yeah, like it's never too late. Like
No,
we've
yeah,
people starting in their 60s,
yeah,
and I think that's the really cool thing about your body. Like it adapts to your environment
hmm,
surprisingly well. So if you kind of manipulate your environment, you're going to feel a lot better. That's awesome, mate. So yeah, Larry, just really appreciate you sharing everything. It's been awesome coaching you and working together. I'm also going to put your Instagram on this episode as well, so people can check you out. on Instagram as well. But anything else you want to share before we jump off?
Hmm. Don't be your own coach. That only gets you so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not too late, however old you are, you can start just by doing, whatever you can do. Maybe it's walking, maybe it's just getting up and down out of a seat 10 times in a row, just to build up that capability. But yeah,
Yeah.
never too late.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, really appreciate you jumping on and sharing everything. All right.
Yeah. Thanks. It's been great.